Welcome back to another edition of Reacher Reviewed. Today I'm going to be reviewing the fourth Jack Reacher novel, which goes by two different titles depending on where you live. In Europe it's called The Visitor, whilst in America, and most other markets, it's Running Blind. Perhaps American publishers thought The Visitor sounded too much like Reacher was having an intergalactic encounter with some little green men. Whatever the reasoning, both titles work for this story about a serial killer who has a very unusual way of dispatching their unlucky victims, as it involves a bathtub full of green paint. So without further ado, let's grab a cup of black coffee and begin. Although you might not want to watch this particular video whilst you're in the bath. The book opens brilliantly with Reacher in a restaurant he's visited several times before. It's a new spot with good food, even if the portions are a little small for Reacher's appetite, although the quality makes up for the quantity. Whilst there, he witnesses someone putting the squeeze on the owner. Reacher knows he can't right all the wrongs in this world, but this is something small he can fix. So he decides to prevent an injustice. This is typical Reacher behaviour, and it's very satisfying to read about bad guys getting their comeuppance. However, that decision becomes the beginning of a long journey back and forth across the continent, because after this event, as Reacher returns home, yes, he actually has a home in this story, as established in the previous book, Tripwire, he's arrested and taken to the New York FBI office. Reacher finds himself left in a room whilst numerous agents check in on him before he's finally called to a meeting, which leads to Reacher working with the FBI to solve what appears to be the perfect crime, or rather, a series of perfect crimes. Women are being murdered across the country with absolutely no evidence, no injuries, and not a single piece of forensic material, except the dead women themselves and identical circumstances surrounding each death. Now this is where it gets truly disturbing. The killer is somehow murdering their victims, all of them female and all of them known to Reacher from his military police investigation days, without leaving any bruises, marks or injuries of any kind. Then they're marinating the corpses in bathtubs filled with affordable army issue green camouflage paint. It's both bizarre and horrifying. But something feels off to Reacher about the entire case and how the FBI is pursuing it. He's having a challenging time figuring out the missing pieces, partly because there's an odd dynamic where he's either under lock and key or accompanied wherever he goes. And the FBI aren't above using blackmail to get what they want out of Reacher. Initially, all his suggestions and ideas are dismissed, but as with any crime, you must figure out the primary motives, and Reacher is very, very good at that. Several names appear on a list. Some victims are already dead, others, Reacher believes, are in imminent danger. Can he solve the case, or will the impediments that the FBI has put in his way prevent him from stopping the killer? The tension builds effectively as Reacher works against both the clock and bureaucratic obstacles. The book is mostly told from a third-person perspective, although there are a few chapters that are told from the killer's point of view. These moments are genuinely effective and creepy, putting you directly into their disturbing mindset. Child creates a palpable sense of menace and psychological horror that elevates this beyond a simple procedural crime thriller. Reacher's frustrations with the FBI's bureaucracy and his methodical approach to unraveling the impossible murders showcase his character development beautifully. The premise is genuinely intriguing. How do you kill someone without leaving any trace of violence? The answer, when it comes, is both clever and deeply unsettling. Unfortunately, those same killer perspective chapters that create such effective atmosphere also give away far too much information. As soon as it's established that hypnosis is involved, it pretty much reveals who the killer is. This significantly reduces the mystery's impact and makes the revelation less satisfying than it should have been. It's a classic case of Child being perhaps a little too clever for his own good. The psychological insight adds atmosphere, but undermines the detective work that makes Reacher stories so compelling. This story continues sometime after Tripwire and follows it very closely in the chronological timeline. Now, I've been jumping around in both publication and chronological order, but I would have loved to have read this immediately after Tripwire. The continuity would have enhanced the experience significantly. The Visitor, or Running Blind, whatever you call it, remains an exceptional entry in the Reacher series despite its flaws. The impossible crime setup is brilliantly conceived, the FBI dynamics create interesting tension, and Reacher's problem-solving skills are on full display. Whilst the mystery loses some punch due to premature revelations, the journey to the solution remains engrossing. If you're reading the series in order, this is essential reading that builds directly on Tripwire. If you're jumping around like I was, it still works as a standalone thriller, although you'll miss some character continuity. The book succeeds in showing us a Reacher who's starting to build connections. He has a home, relationships with people from his past matter to him, and he's learning to work within systems even when they frustrate him. It's character development that plays dividends in later books. However, at the end of the book, we're essentially getting a reset of the character, and he goes back to his wandering ways that we saw in the first 3 books. Although Reacher enjoys living with Jodie and actually having a comfortable bed to sleep in every night, having a settled domestic life doesn't sit well with him, and he longs to return to being back on the road, travelling from place to place. Now, in my opinion, this is one Reacher novel that would be extremely difficult to translate to Amazon Prime's excellent Reacher television series, and the core problem lies in the book's structure and mystery mechanics. Television is a visual medium that relies heavily on showing rather than telling. The killer's internal monologue chapters that create the book's psychological horror simply would not translate effectively to screen. You can't really film someone's twisted thought process without resorting to heavy-handed voiceover or exposition, which would then kill the subtlety that makes those sections work so well on the page. More critically, the mystery's central reveal depends on information that's gradually disclosed through these internal chapters. Television audiences are incredibly savvy. They pick up on visual cues, casting choices, and subtle hints that book readers might miss. The hypnosis element that Child uses as his big revelation would likely be spotted by viewers much earlier than intended, even earlier than in the book, making the mystery feel more telegraphed than it already does so in print. The FBI bureaucracy and Reacher being under lock and key would also translate poorly to television. Alan Ritchson's physical presence as Reacher makes the idea of him being generally constrained by federal agents feel less believable than it does on the page. The show works best when Reacher is free to be Reacher, methodical, physical, and unrestrained. Finally, the bathtub paint scenes, whilst disturbing in text, would require very careful handling on screen to avoid being either too graphic or unintentionally comedic. It's the type of imagery that works better when filtered through a reader's imagination than when literally depicted on screen. The Amazon series has wisely focused on Reacher stories that play to television's strength: clear action, strong supporting characters, and mysteries that work visually. The Visitor is simply better suited to the page than the screen. However, do not let that put you off from reading the book, as it is still a riveting read. The Visitor delivers a compelling mystery with genuine psychological horror and showcases Child's ability to create truly impossible crimes. It's a solid entry that bridges Reacher's wandering phase with his more connected future, making it essential reading for series fans, even if it's unlikely to ever make it to your television screen. I have more Jack Reacher books to review here on the channel, which I'll be planning on doing soon. I'm also going to start reading and reviewing some of the James Bond continuation novels, where authors other than Ian Fleming write new stories for everybody's favourite 00 agent. So if that sounds like the sort of thing you'd be interested in, then make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Until next time, remember, sometimes the perfect crime isn't so perfect after all. What's your favourite impossible crime thriller? Have you also read the Jack Reacher books? Let me know in the comments below, and do be sure to check out some of my other book reviews here on the channel. And as always, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update regarding future videos just like this one. And with a bit of luck, I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, Bye for now.